Today we have some fun planned. I was changing the spark plugs in my car, and I was pressing up against the heater hose there by the firewall, and the nipple broke off for the heater hose that came off the manifold. So now it's time for a brand new manifold. I got this Dorman manifold. The cheap place to get is on Amazon, but I had to go to the local parts store and pay $50 more. Maybe more like $75 more. But anyway, here's the manifold. Comes with instructions. Comes with a brand new thermostat. There's a gasket, a little bolt, some sort of plastic thing, and then a whole bunch of little screws here and a bracket. And we'll figure it all out. I'll give you a step-by-step on how to do all this here. And hopefully this will help you out if you ever have to do it yourself. I watched some videos of some other cars having it done, and they sure make it look easy. Okay, step one, we're going to drain the radiator. So you can kind of see the radiator petcock up here. And I loosen it with an adjustable wrench. Just unscrew. There we go. Step two, whenever you see any instructions for doing almost anything on the car, they always say to disconnect the negative terminal. And I don't know, it's not like we're going to be messing with anything electrical, but yeah, you know what, we're going to be messing with alternators, so we better do this. So I got an 8mm wrench. We loosen this baby up and gently lift this thing off without breaking anything. Don't forget that part, don't break anything. Take the top cover off. You can see there's a bolt right here, and it has a 1/4-inch square hole in there, and then you just screw it with just a 1/4-inch drive ratchet. Okay, now we take the intake air bellows off, so you can see we got a screw right here. We loosen up this one. We loosen up this one here at the throttle body, and then this little black plastic thing is right there. You see that screw I'm touching right there, that bolt not touch right there? That's a 7/16. So you get a 7/16" deep socket, and unscrew this baby, and this thing comes right off. Well, let's see what we got here. We got the alternator on a big bracket that's on here that's got to come off. We got this whole throttle body that's got to come off. Kind of see where the EGR valve attaches to that. We got these fuel rail here, this nice chrome fuel rail here. There's another chrome fuel rail on the other side. This is all stuff that we're going to have to take off. I guess I'm going to start with the alternator and this bracket that holds the alternator. Okay, as far as taking the alternator off, the first thing you want to do is take a good look at where that serpentine belt's running around there. Luckily, I'm taking a photo of it, so if I ever screw anything up, and you can kind of see right here is a tensioner, and is what we're going to do. Let me, I don't know, there's a 3/8" hole right here, right in my fingers. There's a 3/8" hole, and I got a breaker bar with a 3/8" adapter on there, and I'm going to put it in the hole, and then you can see how we just release the tension. And let's see if I can do this all with one hand. Oh my gosh, one-handed. Yes! Yeah, that's pretty easy. For the alternator, we appear to have 6 bolts. Each one of them is a 10mm, exactly 10mm. I don't know why it's metric, but 10mm in the bottom, and these 4 on the top, and this bracket will be loose after you're done there, and get the alternator up out of the way. You see this little plug right here on the alternator? Let's go zoom up. This is the alternator. There's a plug on the top. There's a little catch back here. You pry the catch back, a little screwdriver, and this thing just comes out. And hey, the advice I got for the EGR valve off the internet there, or off a YouTube video, was to unscrew the EGR valve and just leave it up there because of possible breakage of the tube. And the less things we break, the better. So I have a 10mm wrench, and I got one bolt here and one bolt here, and we'll separate the EGR from the throttle body. I took these 2 bolts out holding the EGR valve on. When I did that, I heard something drop side behind there, underneath it, and it's this metal gasket. So anyway, don't lose that. I'm putting all my parts in a row of the order I took them off in by grouping, and so I'll have them all in a row here so I don't forget them. Well, let's take a look at our throttle body here. You can see there's a bunch of cables and stuff right on the side here. You can see there's a rubber hose up here. This rubber hose that was going to that intake bellows I took off earlier, and a couple electrical connectors. Now the electrical connectors you got to be so careful with because they have a way to do it. Now this one, okay, there's a little tab. I'm pressing the tab in. I press the tab in and it comes off. Of course, I loosened it just previously, so I cheated a little bit here. But the trick is you wiggle these things around. You wiggle them around and then try to pull them. So you have to try to break them free. So this one, okay, there's a tab. Oh, the tab's in the middle. The tab's not on the end of this one. The tab's in the middle, right there where my thumbnail is. And that comes off, so we got those two off. Okay, now we got this hose on the top. I took a pair of pliers, took the clamp, slid it down there. Now the trick I found on these things is you twist them around. You twist them around until they break free, and then you can pull them off. I can't do it with one hand, though. Removing the throttle body, I got this hose off up here. I think I talked about before, and did the two electrical connectors. There's a vacuum hose right here. You see this? That nipple right there is the vacuum hose came off this nipple. And I undid the 8mm screws. So you need an 8mm socket. And you can see there's 4 around here and one that kind of comes up around the side. So there's 5 bolts. And this thing kind of comes up and gets out of the way there. Oh yeah, and this baby right here came out of the valve cover. So looks like we got enough room to work on this thing. Well, so far the job's been going pretty darned easy. That's about to change right now. Oh, you guys want some fun? Here's some fun. Okay, here's the bracket right here. Now, you see my wrench? My wrench is hooked up to the bolt on the other end of this bracket. This bolt right here is one of the intake manifold bolts that holds it down. And anyway, I got a 15mm wrench on there, and we got to take off a nut. And it's kind of on like maybe an 1.25 inch long stud there. So this is going to be some fun. And this is what separates the men from the boys right here, getting off a bolt like that. Oh yeah, just to add, I was reading a forum, and some guy was so frustrated with this particular bracket that I think he took an angle grinder or something, or maybe hacksaw, who knows what, cut this thing right off. So I don't blame him. Well, I got the bolt out. Well, here it is right here. Let me put it on shot. Kind of see it right there. I don't know what the hell that white stuff is in there. But it has a stud on the end, but there's nothing connected on the end of the stud, so I guess maybe they had some other piece that they may have had on there in the past that they got rid of. But like I said, I put a 15mm on there, took this thing out. Once I loosened it like a turn, I was able to do it by finger and get it out of here. And then I ended up dropping it back behind the transmission, but I got underneath the car and retrieved it. But anyway, you see this clip here of this cable right here. I guess it's maybe to the, looks like it goes to the speed control or cruise control maybe, and then there's another cable here was clipping to this. And you can see there's a big master wiring harness back here. And you can see, I don't know if you see that little white thing underneath there. It's like a plastic clip that goes through a hole there for the wiring harness. We got to separate that out of there, and then we'll get that bracket out of here. Whew. But I know it. Now that I'm mostly done with it, it doesn't seem as bad as I was describing earlier. Okay, here's our bracket. Kind of see where the manifold bolt went through right over here. Those two cables clipped into there. This little hole right here had the wiring harness in there. I took a flat blade screwdriver and propped that out of there. You can see this white stuff here and this white stuff here. I don't know, maybe some sort of an anti-seize compound or something. But that's kind of the way it came out. So glad that's out of there. And it was like 15 minutes of fighting, but we got it out. Okay, we still got some vacuum hoses here. Remember I showed you this conglomeration of vacuum hoses that hooked up to the throttle body that I took off earlier. Then we have 2 that go to the EGR valve. It looks like the red one goes to the bottom and the black one goes to the top. Now, you just don't pull on these things, man. If you just grab on these things and pull, they're going to break off. You have to twist back and forth, twist, get them undone, and then twist and pull. And then there's a vacuum thing going to some sort of something on the fuel line. And that should be all the vacuum hoses out of the way. Okay, one more bracket to take care of. See this little bracket back here right behind the EGR valve? You can see where the cables come through here. I just want to document this so you can kind of see which one goes where. The one going to the cruise control is in the back, and the one going to I imagine it goes to the driver's pedal is in the front. So that kind of comes out of here. Those clip out. And then there's two 10mm bolts, and we'll get that baby out of there. Okay, we're back at the EGR valve. There's one more electrical connector to take off. Well, of course, I loosened that earlier, but see right where my thumb presses, there's right where my thumbnail is, I press in there. Oh, there you go. You can kind of see a little bit better right here where the clip is coming off of there. And that thing just comes off. And boy, now we're looking pretty good. Now it's time to look at the fuel rail. It's about, we've got the fuel rail, the heater hose in the back here, and then the thermostat housing. Looks like about all maybe a temp sensor, and that's about it. Okay, let's take a look at our fuel rail. You can kind of see the nice chrome fuel rail run across here. Got a hose going across the other side, and a nice chrome thing here, the vacuum pot that we took off. Here's the fuel inlet. And I did buy a special thing to undo this, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to see if I can get by without disconnecting the fuel line. But so anyway, there's a connector here. I got this one done. You can see there's like a little tab on the bottom that you press in with your thumb. Took that off. And then there's 4 bolts. Bolt here, bolt there. And this bolt had a little thing on here to hold this cable. So I took that off. You can see the other bolt. Here's this bolt here. This bolt seems to have a ground clip on there. Let's not forget that ground clip. I want to document that ground clip. Take that off. And of course, I just unplugged this cable here. There's a stupid cable on the bottom here. Now, is that a vacuum line? Well, I'm going to play with that later. I don't know if I'm going to try to leave that on for now. But anyway, right now I got 8mm wrench. Here we are, trusty 8mm wrench. We're going to take these 4 bolts off and then figure out what I need to do with the fuel rail after that. Okay, we got all of the 4 studs that hold the fuel rails off. And probably before I did that, we should have unplugged these cables here. But anyway, make sure you unplug all 8 of the injector cables. And then you have these orange injectors. So you go up to each one, and you grab it near the base, and you gently wiggle it, and kind of pull up, and you kind of pull up, and you kind of pull up, and you kind of pull up, kind of pull up, and you kind of pull up, and then we'll get this rail up, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. And we'll get the fuel rail free from the manifold, and then try to figure out what to do with it next. Okay, you can see the fuel rail assembly. I just very carefully took it around, took the hose that connected the two together, put it underneath the EGR valve, came around the front, and just folded it over. And so now it's out of the way. And now we just need to take we got the coils, we got the heater hose, we got the housing, the thermostat housing, and the temp sensor, and I think we're just about done here. Almost ready to take the manifold out itself. The coils on plugs. Kind of see the connector here. It's like a little tab at the very end. My thumb is pressing down on it right now. It's on the bottom. It pulls out, and then you take a 7mm ratchet and take out the screw. And these things, you have to be careful. If they're stuck, don't pull on them. Wiggle them back and forth to free them up because the boot might be stuck to the spark plug. So, and it's best if you take a little compressed air and blow in here too after you're all done too. But we're not taking the spark plugs out, so it's not that big a deal. Okay, the coils are all out now. Now, one thing I want you to remember is there's an open hole going into your intake right here. So look at all that crappy dirt up there. And I actually took some compressed air and blew out earlier here, but it's still a lot of crap in here. There's a lot of danger. There's a lot of stuff that can fall into the intake manifold, and that's not the biggest deal because we're going to take the intake manifold out. But there might be an open cylinder, a valve opened, and maybe stuff will get into the cylinder. And anyway, like I say, just be really careful. And with those injectors out, don't be blowing any compressed air because you'll be getting dirt all over the place. So just be really, really careful at this point. And anyway, I got my 10mm wrench, and we'll take off the housing, then we'll take off the heater hose, and I think we'll be about ready to see about taking off the intake bolts. Okay, let's just show you where we're at now. Of course, for the sake of completeness, we have to take off the clip for the temp sensor, and right where my thumb is, you press the little clip and it comes out. I got all the manifold bolts out. So on this side, there's 5. You can see there's one way in the back, and then you can kind of see them there. I got them all unscrewed. Then, of course, that one right there, right in the front. So there's 5 on this side. And there's 3 on this side. 1 in the back, 2 over here. And remember the one that went right here, that was in that bastard bracket that we had to take off. And so, I guess that makes 9, although seems like 8 should be the right number. But yeah, 9 it is. Okay, time for a pop quiz. I hope you guys have been paying attention. Let's identify all the bolts as we came down here. We started off, the one for the intake bellows, alternator, EGR valve. What the hell are these for? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh yeah, that's for the throttle body. Our bastard bracket. Our bracket from behind the EGR valve. These are the 4 fuel rail studs. We got 8 coil unplug bolts. We have 2 thermostat housing, and then these are the 8 remaining manifold bolts, and we got our 8 coils in plugs. Okay, I put the bolts away, and this thing just like comes right friggin' up. Now this is an aftermarket Dorman. Apparently the previous owner must have replaced this, but it doesn't come out very easily, and it turns out the wiring harness is attached kind of in the back. I was looking at the new one, and you can kind of see how there's like a little tab right there. You can see this tab or that tab, but the wiring harness has a spline that sticks in there to hold it. So we're going to have to pry the wiring harness out of there, then it should come out really. The mess we got in here, and by the way, my last statement was completely wrong. This was the original factory intake manifold, because you can see the gasket here, and what kind of a gooey mess is that? Looks like maybe a clogged coolant passage. We'll have to clean that out. And just easily comes off. Okay, well anyway, we're going to clean everything out. You can see a little bit of sludge built up on the intake here. I'm going to try to very gently clean that up because I don't want that stuff dropping down into the cylinder heads. Anyway, I'm going to be really careful up here. I may just grab my shop vac and go very quickly with my shop vac, and then start cleaning up. And of course, they always say you're supposed to put like paper towels into each one of the intake holes so that nothing falls in there, and I may do that too, but I'm going to spend an hour or two cleaning this thing up and getting ready. And like I say, this is probably must be what they call the new design of the original factory one. But let me show you what broke on the old one. This is the reason I had to replace it, is I was changing my spark plugs, and this is where the heater hose hooks up right here, and this stupid thing broke off. And I could have clipped it on there just a 1/4 of an inch, and I could do that, but I know once I'm on the rush hour traffic on the freeway at 90 degrees that this thing's just going to pop right off. And I just couldn't live with it. I just couldn't live with it. There are people on the forums that talk about cutting this thing off and tapping it and putting a nipple in here. That sounds like a possible idea, but the way you do it right is replacing the manifold. So anyway, be really careful when you're changing your spark plugs that you don't break that thing off. It's very this plastic gets very fragile. You can see all those pieces of broken plastic here. There's a big thing here. You can see this is just kind of old age. It's just falling apart. Some sort of heat shield looks like. Anyway, here it is. Okay, I'm still cleaning things up here, but let me show you what I'm looking for here. So we got 2 things that of worry. We got all these mating surfaces. Like there's supposed to be an O-ring that goes around here, and an O-ring that goes around here, and an O-ring that goes around there. And if there's a bunch of gunk up here, the O-ring might not seal completely. And we'll have a vacuum leak or a coolant leak. And we don't want that. And the other thing I want to do is along this edge here, and along this edge here, I want to make sure it's pretty clean, because that's where the manifold's coming in, and I don't want to have any physical interference causing it not to sit flat. And that'd be another thing that would cause poor mating at the O-rings and cause vacuum leaks or coolant leaks, and vacuum leaks suck. Now I'm cleaning off the gasket surface, and I was using carburetor cleaner, and that's a good thing to do, but what really works great is a razor blade, a utility blade, And you just put it on there, and man, does it just scrapes everything off. Boy, now that really is working nice. And we'll get this thing cleaned up in just a minute. Here's the old manifold, and here's the new manifold. And I guess I got turned up at the top, and there's a little bit of prep we have to do. First thing is the temperature sender unit. I put some Teflon tape on there, and that's got to go into this hole right here. And then there's an extra hole right here that the old one didn't have. And the kit here, they say in the instructions, see right there, there's a screw and plug right there. That's going to have to screw into this. We'll put some Teflon tape onto that. And then I'm looking at this big standoff up here. Boy, I forgot what that went to. But hey, they wouldn't have put it on there if it wasn't important, so I'll put that on over there. And I'll worry about the thermostat after I get it installed. So those are the items that I noticed that need a little prep work before you get going. Oh yeah, and one more. The heater hose thing. I need to take off this rubber cap on the heater hose because I'm going to be using my heater. Yeah, this this extra plug here takes an 8mm Allen wrench, in case you're wondering, because not too many people happen to have something that large. It's 8mm. Manifold went in pretty easily. There's just you have to carefully get underneath the EGR valve. Went in pretty easily, and nobody talked about it, but there's this heat shield thing in here, this thing that's disintegrating and falling apart, the stupid heat shield. And I decided to reuse the old heat shield, and it seemed to fit pretty well in there, and I didn't really have any problems using it, although a lot of pieces fell off. So anyway, let's oh well. Okay, we got the new thermostat in. I did the 8 volts. But of course not the 9th bolt, because we need to have that plate in there, and I'm worried about access before doing that. So I didn't actually follow the instructions, but out of heck with them. Anyway, now we're here in the thermostat. We got this pretty nice stainless steel thermostat. We put it in there. I put the rubber O-ring that comes with the kit, and now this thing goes on top. And then we got these spacers. And boy, oh boy, I'm trying to figure out what to do with them. The only thing I can think of to do is to put them on top here. And I'm going to see whether I need them or not. So let me hold on here, and I'm going to see how the old bolts work and whether I need to put spacers in there or not. And I'll let you know in just a second. Yeah, I think those spacers were maybe for an older model car or something like that. Didn't need them. Now it's time to install the coils. I'm putting everything back in reverse order, and luckily I laid all the bolts out into the right order. So let's take a look at those bolts. So here's the bolts that came, and you can see the nice threaded ones, and there were brass inserts in the original manifold. The new manifold doesn't seem to have brass inserts, and it came with these coarse thread self-tapping screws. And I think it's possible that maybe the old screws would still work, but maybe I'd better go with these new ones, although they don't look nearly as nice. And I guess there's 10 of them. And 8 coils, so the other 2, they might go to something else, because apparently the directions say there's new EGR brackets and new alternator brackets, although I didn't, I only counted one bracket. We'll see. So on each coil, you want to take a paper towel, wipe them off really nice, get them all nice and clean, and then, if you want to, you can use dielectric grease. It's kind of a lubricant, and it keeps the boots from sticking to the spark plugs, and you put like a little goo around the inside of each one of them, and that way they'll slide onto the spark plug, and they won't stick, and life will be good. Okay, I put all the coils, I screwed in all the coils and plugged all the coils in, and nothing exciting there, all easy stuff to do. And now I took the fuel rails, and I kind of got them in position. I haven't pushed them in, I haven't bolted them down or anything like that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to first, wipe them all off, wipe off all those orange fuel injectors, clean them all off, and maybe I'll take a little bit of that silicone grease and put them along the O-ring to push them in, just maybe a little bit like that, so that they slide in easily and seal and seat all the way. But anyway, first I'm going to clean them, then I'm going to push them in, then I'm going to put the 4 bolts in. And that should be pretty easy. So I'm trying to make sense of these directions. It says vehicles with clearance issues for the EGR vacuum control will require the additional spacer bracket provided, blah, blah, blah. Fail to use this bracket will void your warranty or something. So anyway, I just got done putting in what I call the EGR bracket, but this is basically just a bracket to route the control lines and cables over top of this hot EGR pipe. This pipe goes to the exhaust, so it gets really hot. So you got to keep things away from it. And here's the spacer. Here's a little square spacer, and it doesn't like go anywhere around here. I just don't know where the hell this thing could possibly fit. It must not be for this vehicle, so I'm just going to ignore it. But if you have a vehicle that takes some sort of a square thing like that, and there's clearance issues hitting the runners. There you go. I see what's going on the alternator bracket. Here's the old bracket. And if I screw it in all the way, there's like a 1/4 inch clearance. If I screw it in all the way, the back end of this thing is pressing into the intake runner. And that can't be good. So let's try the new one. No, it seems to be working pretty well. You can see the new bracket. Everything looks nice and clean. I don't smell any gasoline squirting all over the place. I didn't get any codes. I started up the engine. I didn't get any codes. It's running nice and smooth. Well, we'll see. So far, so good. Looks like I'm going to work tomorrow.